So welcome everybody, welcome to the people who are here in this room with us, as well as our online viewers. I'm hoping there's a lot of you. We are having today a Winter University information session. So you'll have a bunch of opportunities to ask all of the questions you have about this thing, as well as get some insights from my guests here today who have joined in through Winter University on previous sessions. So a funny story, I joined in through Summer University, a very similar program, but taking place in summer obviously, but that was already 15 years ago. On my first attempt, I flunked. I failed the test assignment because it was my first year in the university. I decided to try, but it was way too difficult for me. So it's an interesting story I tend to tell again and again because it illustrates well that it might take some time to succeed, and there's nothing wrong with failure as long as you learn from it. So how this session is going to go. We have planned 1.5 hours. So first hour I'm going to be talking with our guests here, and obviously you have a chance to ask questions. So everybody in here with us or online, online viewers, you can post your questions in the comments. I will get them here on my screen, or they will be replied to you by some of our assistants. And I'm expecting to have the comments as soon as you get them. You don't have to wait till the end of the session to ask the questions. Just post them online or raise your hand and let us know you have any questions. Once we are done with the kind of more interview part, we will dig deeper into the details of this year's Winter University as well. So all of the details will come, and you'll have a separate allocated Q&A session in the very end to maybe ask questions that might not even be related to Winter University. Either we answer them or not, I don't know. We'll see. But let me first introduce my guests to you. We have Krut and we have Kaspar. So how did you guys become developers? Let's start with you, Krut, maybe.
Sure. I always like to tell the story that the first time I got the idea to study IT, or that it was even an option, it was thanks to the fourth Die Hard movie with the hackers. Like that was the
that's an interesting reference.
Yeah, that was the light bulb moment that, oh, that's an option. I think I was in high school at the time. So went to study IT, informatics in Daltech, or it wasn't Daltech back then, but Nortal caught my eye during the first year. I also tried after my first year, like you mentioned, and didn't get in right away. I got to the introductory week, essentially, and took part of that, but I didn't get the immediate job offer. So just next year, whenever I saw people from Nortal in these events where they talked about the Summer University, then I reminded them of myself and let them know I'm still interested, and based on the task from my first try, they invited me for an interview.
So it didn't have to do another test assignment?
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I suppose I did well enough to get some attention during the first year, but it was a mixture of just being less experienced, probably, as well as it being kind of difficult to balance school and work, especially if you only have 1 year of school or university behind you. So yeah, I concentrated on my studies during the second year and tried again, and I didn't have to do the test assignment again. Yeah, the first time was enough.
Mm-hmm. Kaspar, so how long you have been doing this, and how did you get the idea?
So first of all, I didn't really understand that we were going like way back to the first encounters of software development, but well, we can do that. I was actually in high school, I was studying theater, so total opposite. And so during the like physics and maths classes, I felt like, all right, I'm really good at maths, I'm really good at physics, but and then I decided to, instead of theater school, I decided to come to TTÜ at that time, Taltech. And quickly it turned out that the reason that I thought that I understood mathematics and physics was because I was studying in a theater class where everybody else was very good at literature and like more softer topics.
So have you by now discovered the creative side of development?
Yeah, definitely. And because I'm currently more in the front end of the development, so like the
you
looks
have the
and everything is
you have
really important.
more of the creative side.
Yeah.
Okay, so over the time you have been with Nortal, what sort of projects have you been working on, or what are you working on currently? Kaspar, maybe you continue.
So yeah, I actually just joined Nortal last year with the Winter University. So my first days were in April, and well, ever since I've been in this one project, I'm working for the e-health. Basically, we are building IT solutions for Estonian hospitals, like in-house IT solutions.
Yeah, I've been in Nortal for about 3.5 years. Most of the time I've been working on the Estonian tax and customs board projects. So the very first one I was in was kind of like the dashboard when you log into EMTA or the tax board's systems, which most Estonians have probably done. So the first things you see, essentially. And then I recently finished with the customs project. And I've also briefly been involved in the National Procurement Register. And currently, for the past couple of months, I've been working on the Social Insurance Board project.
So there's a lot over the short period of time.
There's like two longer projects, both of which lasted for about 1.5 years or so, and then like the two shorter ones where I was in for a couple of months. So
would you say that the experience you had from those projects was that fairly similar, or did you gain anything extra from being part of these multiple actual projects?
Yeah, definitely. The two main ones that I've been in were similar in a way that they were both for the same client, which is the Tax and Customs Board or Ministry of Finance, and those systems are very connected to one another, and they have a lot of similarities and a lot of interconnecting parts. So I'd say those were similar projects and similar experiences, but the smaller things that I got to do for a short time were quite different from it. So got to see perhaps a bit different technologies and different teams, and yeah.
So now that you mentioned technologies, what sort of technologies have you worked with? Kaspar, I understand you are more involved in front-end world.
Yeah, and this is actually something that was kind of a surprise for me when I joined Nortal. I'm doing basically Angular development for the most of my work at the moment. But before that, maybe I had even heard about Angular like a month prior to the winter university program actually. So I wasn't like.
I think that was part of the test assignment as well, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah,
it was. It was actually really nice that I started learning a little bit about Angular just about a month before the test assignment arrived. So
you got lucky.
I got really lucky. So yeah, learning Angular, like different front-end skills, like reactive programming is one of the topics that is quite important nowadays in the front-end world at least, and also like state management, which is something that I just actually started going really into about 2 weeks ago. So that's what's on my mind at the moment.
A lot of different patterns to apply there.
Yeah.
A lot of new things to learn. So Krut, what about you? You are mostly doing Java projects?
Yes, so I've been working as a full stack developer the entire time, but I feel more comfortable in the backend world with Java and Spring. So yeah, I think all of the projects that I've been in have been Java-based on the backend side.
And using Spring Framework,
yeah,
some
Spring
relational
Boot,
database.
And usually Postgre, a little bit of Oracle here and there, but yeah, mostly Postgre. And also Angular for front end. Need to understand some of it. I don't feel as comfortable, but I feel like I can manage there.
So actually, this is something that represents the somewhat represents the Nortal technological landscape. We're definitely not fixed in Angular or Java technologies such as Spring Framework, but in many cases, using technologies that we are very familiar with reduces technological risks significantly. So if we have a huge and complex project upcoming, it would be really challenging and maybe a bit stupid to choose a technology that none of us knows, because that increases the chance that we will fail because of that, because we have to learn the new technologies in addition to the customer domain and their business. So it seems to me that your work currently looks like this. So you come to work, you write Java code and a bit of SQL, and you just write Angular from 9 to 5. So how true or incorrect that is? Maybe you can begin this time.
It might be true for some days where you do just sit and write code, but there's a lot more to the job, definitely. First of all, software development as a whole is very much a team effort and a team project. So communication and just talking to your teammates is a very big part of it. There's a lot of meetings and discussions overall, so communication skills in addition to coding skills come into play. And
I want to point out that this is exactly why within the kind of test assignment period we have the interview rounds as well to validate these communication skills and possibility to work together as a team.
Yeah, and then you have days like this when they put you in front of an audience and make you talk about your job. So that happens more often than one would think as well. So.
Kasper, how about you?
Well, in my case, they also shoot a video and posted it to everywhere in the social media. So there's some weird stuff going on, definitely. But I think, yeah, same.
Yeah, go ahead. Maybe we can get a microphone. Yes.
Just like a contextual question.
I think you need to have it really close.
Really?
Yes.
This way?
Let's try like
Is
that.
Is it okay? Just like trying to test. With regard to the social skills and to the experience that you've got already, did you got a chance during 3.5 years and first year to meet to the client, or at least to see some signs that he exists, and not only in some theory somewhere beyond the scene? Thank you very much.
That's a really good question. So how about it?
Well, I kind of met with a client today, but of course right now everything is going on in the Teams meetings. So
you've seen them online more often than in person.
Yeah, I mean every 2 weeks, because we have a delivery of the product every 2 weeks. Then there's like a small little demonstration, and I've been given the opportunity to showcase my developments to them.
So the usual practice is, if a development team starts with a sprint, and in the end of every sprint they do a demo session for the customer, and at that demo session usually the developers themselves show the features they build, not some team lead or anybody else.
Yes, I've had, well, most of the projects I've been in, there's always been somebody who's from the development side who's more experienced and more likely to meet the client, but that really depends on the project. That, like in my first project, the interactions I had with the client were during social events, like team building events that we had with representatives from the client side as well. Lately, in the social insurance project that I'm in, there are also regular demos where you do see them during a video call usually, but yeah, there's definitely signs that they exist, and the development team isn't like kept away from them. There's usually direct communication with them.
Kaspar, when you joined, then the situation in Estonia was a bit more difficult than it is today. So you even had to do the onboarding and meeting the team online, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah, I think actually, well, the very same event last year was just online.
Just online, yeah.
Yeah, so when I joined in April, well, the office was empty. So
office was closed, I believe.
Yeah, basically. So I was actually going to the office during the time, because I just didn't have a table at home to put my monitors on. So I decided to go to the office, and there was a couple of more people. So I was able to at least like have some chit chat during the coffee break, but definitely kind of hard time to work in an office, especially while you're onboarding, and also because my team is located in Tartu, actually. So difficult times.
But how did it work out?
Well, I think the one very important thing is that we are having these slightly more extended meetings every day, like these Scrum stand-up meetings, which usually should last about like 10-15 minutes. Then we are doing like 45 at the moment. So just to know what's actually going on and be able to.
Yeah, the online format definitely takes more time.
Yeah. And also, I had a really good, and still have a really good mentor who was just able to answer all of my questions basically 24/7. So I just gave him a call. Didn't even have to write that, hey, can you talk? I just call him straight away. And at the beginning, I felt like, well, I'm not quite sure if he can do his own work besides assisting me or not.
But that
really
already has an amplifying effect. If he helps you out and maybe helps somebody else out, then then it would amplify the effectiveness of your work. The mentoring thing and tutoring, we haven't had a proper term for it. Is it mentoring or tutoring? It changes over the years. But this is something that is very important for the winter university and then for the summer university alike, to have somebody who's experienced in the profession and can be available during the working hours, or in some cases 24/7, to be able to answer the questions that come, that may be technical, that may be customer or business related, or even kind of Nortal related. I don't know, I want a second monitor, where can I get one? These are the questions that a good mentor and tutor can solve. And we are also doing a special training program for those mentors. So they're not either just developers who are dropped in the pool in the deep end, but they know what they're getting into, and they have experience in that. Okay. So let's maybe switch on to Winter University, and then more into Winter University details. I have some questions coming in online about .NET, C#, and in general the programming languages the test assignment is focused on. So the test assignment is focused on Java, and there will be a front-end component to it. That's the extent of information I can share at this time. It might be Angular, but who knows? We might surprise you. There is no .NET or C# side to it. The reason for this is, I think the market in different geographies is very concentrated on specific technologies. So .NET is more prevalent in Finland, for example, and Java is more visible in Estonia for some historic reasons. And we don't specifically bring in .NET developers from Winter University. I think there was a question in the audience. Did we have? Yeah.
Should I stand up or?
No need.
Okay. So I understand you both were the first year students in uni when you applied for the summer university.
The first time I applied, yes. Yeah. I got the position after my second year.
Okay.
But I do know a few people who have also very successfully.
Yeah, my question wasn't that, yeah. But I just wanted to make sure.
I wasn't
how good was your Java comprehension at the time?
My experience with Java was limited to basically one semester of the basic Java course that you get in Talte. That's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you.
So there's another question about the minimum mark for the test. I can pretty much tell you any number, 75. But I think the truth is that you don't have to get the max score out of test assignment. It wouldn't be easy for us to evaluate the test assignments if everybody would get the high score or no score at all. We want some range of scores. And this means that you don't have to max out on everything. So you just contribute as much as you can, as much as you feel that you are capable of contributing, providing the best possible value in terms of code and the result and outcome as you can. And this is what we can use to evaluate if your current competencies and skills are sufficient to be successful in this program later on. So
I can actually have a little bit of a story there. I found out like a year later than when I actually had my job interview. Then the person interviewing me said that they had looked up my test assignment from the previous year, and apparently I had managed to create some sort of random character in the middle of a code or like a typo.
So it didn't even work?
Before basically sending it away, so it didn't compile. All of the automatic testing that it went through failed essentially, but that shows that they go into it more deeply than just like, does it tick some checkboxes or whatever. Like there's more to it, and
Yes. So most of our evaluators are instructed to at least try to understand why the code doesn't work or if it doesn't compile, it might be a really easy fix similar to that. I think there's a question in the front there. So they go through it a bit more deeply to understand what's the issue and if they can fix it really quickly. Obviously, they won't spend hours on fixing it, but if there's a quick fix, they might be able to evaluate the rest of the solution. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, my question is, are these evaluations going to happen in person or by Zoom?
So the interviews, that's something I'm hoping are going to be specified to me, how the interviews will be conducted, but the test assignment evaluation is totally offline, of course. Once you pass the programming test assignment, then you will get an invitation to the interview and following rounds. Some of the following rounds will definitely happen in person, but I'm not sure if all of them.
So the first one is by Zoom?
The very first one actually is a test assignment. That's a programming assignment. That's just sent by email.
Oh.
Okay, now if we are on the topic of test assignments, what helped you the most to solve the test assignments and pass the interviews? Can you think of or remember any I don't know, as thought in your mind that pushed you forward or helped you through this?
Short answer, Google.
Google.
But no, actually, there was a group of us that were doing the test assignment at the same time. So we, I think right now you have a couple of weeks to do it,
yes.
Maybe. But when I applied, you had 3 days. So you got the assignment, and you had basically you had taken the next 3 days off for it. So we had a group of us doing it, and it included this kind of like an algorithm that you needed to write for Batman's boat or something like that. And there were some automated tests that you could run, like how fast it does what it's supposed to do. And since we were all doing it at the same time, then we got this like kind of competition vibe, like who gets to write the best algorithm to perform it. And
so
I think
to get it clear, you didn't share solutions together,
no.
But you just were able to share the results and the timings.
So yeah, like, and also there was a lot that was completely new for me when I got it, like the front end part of it, so when I first saw it, I had absolutely no idea what to do. But you have some time to learn and Google things and figure it out. So like just because at first glance you don't know what's going on or you've never seen anything like it, then that doesn't mean you're not capable of figuring it out or doing it.
And why we do that is, I believe, I'm guessing most probably that you felt pretty much the same way when you joined your first actual project and opened up the code base in there. That's like the test assignment is a small bite of that. Like how you're going to feel like a fish out of water when you first start, but there's usually great people around you who can help you through it. So. And usually this year as well, we're going to have an online forum available for like Q&A questions for in terms of test assignment. Obviously, there's a competition happening, and it makes sense to ask questions in a way that you wouldn't reveal any critical details of the test assignment. We'll try to monitor that, but it has happened that people have posted their code in there and asking why this doesn't work. And it's a part of the solution already, so we try to delete that as quickly as possible. But there is a forum available where you can ask questions, and it may be that you're gonna have issues with getting up the test code or the initial code that we provide you for some unknown reason, and our specialists are more than happy to help you out with that. The period for test assignment solution this year is 2 weeks. So you're going to have plenty of time to work on this, but just keep in mind, don't leave it at the last minute, because if you have any questions and you post them to the forum, the answers might not come immediately. There probably is some lag, especially if you post them on Saturday or Sunday or during holidays. So don't leave it at the last minute. Try to start working on it as soon as possible. I got a reply about the interviews as well. So interviews will be in person, on site. Okay, so Kaspar, what about you? How did your test assignment go? What helped you out to get it done on time?
So first of all, I think there's some kind of a superhero theme going on with the test assignments because mine was about Superman. So perhaps expect something like that. Not quite sure though. Yeah, my test assignment was actually about the same time. I think I had about 2, maybe perhaps even 3 weeks to solve it. And the first thing that I would say is like you get it start right away. This really helped me out because I think with the first 3 or 4 days perhaps I solved pretty much all of it, but then I had these 2 weeks after that to like do some refactorings, find which places I can make better, write good tests, like do everything that I can to kind of stand out perhaps somehow as best as I could. So start right away. There's gonna be probably some surprises on the way that you're gonna have to look up on the internet, perhaps even take a course or 2 on something. So you'll have this like margin of error if you're gonna start doing it right away.
So in general, it took you about 2 to 3 days to solve it. Was it like 2 to 3 full days, or you had time for a break?
I mean, I had 3 days altogether for it, so
No breaks.
No, yeah, I think the first 12 hours of the 72 were getting the existing code to work, like getting it up so you can actually do something. Yeah, like I think my task was a bit smaller than the one that there's 2 weeks for. I'm not entirely sure, but you can get it done in less time that you have, but leaving that buffer to make it better and add some details. Like not everything has to even be about making the code better. Just adding little touches of your own personality to it, or just anything that makes you stand out a bit. The evaluators to appreciate jokes and humor and little Easter eggs, I think.
We haven't had a ski art in the code yet, so maybe hint. would be fun for our evaluators.
Alongside the test assignment, we also had to send a CV, I think, and so on. And I remember I found some sort of template or something, and there was this slot for a quote under your name. I was like, what kind of quote am I going to put there? And then like, my name is Groot, and as mentioned, superheroes are a thing. So my quote was, "I am Groot," and I'm still living that down. It was mentioned many times throughout my interview processes, and especially my first year in Nortal overall. But it got somebody's attention and it made somebody laugh, and I think that actually helped me along quite a bit.
So did you somehow prepare for the interview rounds as well?
We didn't have much information about what they were gonna involve, and that was on purpose. I think the information that the first round of it is like a group interview and so on, that was known. I think the only preparation I had was just being nervous. But yeah, there's the interviews. There's not really much you can do to like prepare yourself other than like mental preparations to be ready for anything. But it's not like a technical interview. It's
You
more
make it sound like really scary. Prepare for anything.
No, that's my point. Like it's not about like they're not going to ask you questions that like do you know this technical thing and so on. It's just about showing them who you are, and you've had preparation for that your entire life. So yeah, that's the
the Nortal Fit is something we take very seriously, and in addition to Nortal Fit, if people are joining in through Winter University, they're going to end up in actual project teams with other people, right? So we want to make sure that there's a fit between these teams and new people joining in as well, to make sure that they again can succeed in their future roles. So that's the reason why these interviews are very much in place. There's a question online about how many people join Nortal in the end. This has varied over the years a lot. So we usually get thousands of applications, and this year, and usually we take just a part of them. And sometimes it happens, just like for Recruit, that we invite people to the training workout session so that they can go through all of the trainings with the existing group, but we don't have a specific project for them where we can assign them immediately. And this is obviously communicated beforehand and shared, that they have the opportunity to go through the training, and then later, if a project becomes available, they can join in at a different time. Okay. So we touched the tutoring part briefly. You mentioned it, but Gröt, how was your tutor, and across the multiple projects as well?
Right. Yeah. So I managed to join way before the world went crazy. So my mentor was sitting behind a table right next to me, like a few feet away at all times. So yeah, he was a very, very good mentor. A lot of like whatever kind of questions there were they technical or more domain related, because a lot of the complexity when you start off isn't just that you don't maybe know how to code this or that. It's also the fact that if you're working on an actual project, you need to understand the background of that project, and that takes time, no matter how much coding experience you have. So yeah, I had a lot of support, and not just from my mentor, but the entire team overall. People are usually very happy to answer questions, and code reviews are a very big part of it. It's completely fine if, as a junior, you work on something for like 2 days and then you send it to code review, and you essentially get the feedback that you need to rewrite the entire thing, and that's perfectly fine. It's expected. And it's the best way to learn is from mistakes and that feedback. So, and yeah, I've been lucky enough that whatever project I've been in, there's always been somebody more experienced than I am in the team as well, to look for guidance and further improvement.
And there usually is. There always is.
Yeah, and even like not just. Like if you're a mid-level developer, it doesn't mean you can only learn from seniors. You can definitely learn from your peers, because everyone's experiences are different, and the knowledge that they have is very different. So
I think even like for the mentors, they are learning from us.
Yes, and I've heard this again and again, where seniors say that they learn a lot from doing these code reviews to juniors or to their code, because there's a very different way of thinking there, and they might encounter solutions that they would have never thought of themselves, and then they again can think about this solving the same problem in a different way. Yes, there's a question at the front.
Sit this time, if you don't mind. Then you mentioned your experiences with the coding, but you also doing the system, as I understand, you're doing tax, something like that, and I don't remember.
E-health.
E-health.
Health,
Yeah.
health. So, I mean, do you have a chance, or even you might be needed by the job assignments to get deeper, not into the coding itself, but into understanding how
the
like
domain.
taxes work, how e-health work, and if you have some troubles in this area. So, for example, you get an assignment to code something, but you don't know how it should work in reality because some fear. How can you get help in Nortal about that? Thank you.
Do you want to start?
Yeah. Well, first of all, perhaps gladly. In the front end, it doesn't matter, I guess, that much as in the back end to know the domain like fully. But here and there, yeah, definitely, you have to get into the domain itself. I don't know. For me, for example, I have to know if I'm building a component for ordering analysis from the laboratory. Then I'm gonna have to know, I mean, what kind of data is really necessary for these lab equipment machines actually to gather, and I guess I get it from the senior developers and architects of the project, and the product owner. There's a lot of people who might know the answer, and a lot of documentation to scroll through.
Yeah, this is one of those places where the teamwork part comes into a lot, because you don't just have a bunch of developers trying to create an application that they don't really understand what it's for. Before it ever even gets to the coding part, you have analysts who meet with the client, who document what is exactly needed, and there's a lot of layers there where like what's necessary is determined. So yeah, some questions go to analysts, some go to other developers, some go to the client if we don't yet know. So the domain knowledge comes with time. So if you work on a project for a while, you start to understand it quite well, and you get to a point where when there's a new feature that needs to be developed, maybe it's described in one way, like it comes through analysis that it needs to do this and that. But as a developer, since you worked on other parts of the system, you realize that they don't really work like that together. And you need to be the one to tell someone that like these things haven't been quite thought through, or it needs to work a bit differently, because the people who know the real life situations and like how taxes work, how like what's part of the official's job on the government side, don't necessarily know how software systems work or how that translates to an application. So what they're asking for might not always be possible in quite that way. So it just comes down to communication of very many different parties, and working together as a team to figure it out.
In some specific projects, we also have a role like a subject matter expert who knows the domain really well, who knows the area of taxes, for example, or logistics and so on. But this is definitely one part that developers will have to learn over the time, and there are several means how they can learn this or gain this knowledge. So one of the ways is doing sprint grooming or refinement sessions, where in the beginning of a sprint of a 2-week time slot where a team will work, all of the features and all of the developments will be explained in a very high detail, so that developers also know what this word means, if they need to add a button with that word somewhere, or what those individual fields mean that they add on a form. So through that process they can ask questions, why is that there, and gain some further understanding from the other roles, such as business analysts, for example, or product owners who were designing that features with the customer and collected that knowledge. I can maybe briefly reflect on my own experience as well. So over the 15 years I have been deeply involved in more than 13 projects, and those involve logistics, finances, telecom. So it's a really interesting to do the shift from one area to another, and once you gain a sufficient amount of experience, you start connecting areas. So you start understanding how there are similarities between these domains that on the surface don't seem to be similar at all. So I think it's worthwhile to do the change, at least in the beginning, to try to experience as much different domains as possible, not to go in with the plan to stay forever in one domain. I mean, but to be realistic, it takes for a year to kind of understand one domain to some extent. So it doesn't come with a sprint or two.
I'm just beginning to grasp
the health, and that's a complicated domain as well.
Yes, it's been around for the project started 20 something years ago. So there is actually a lot of people who have been there in the project for a long time. So the knowledge about this specific domain that I can gather from them seems to me endless at the moment.
And also it's like you have e-government projects, e-health projects and so on, and usually it's not one project, it's a lot of different projects over a lot of years. And like having worked on multiple tax and customs board projects, is the experience you gain from one project is very, very important for the next one as well, because like they might be completely different systems, but as they're part of the same whole, and there's a lot of overlap there, and understanding how this system works as a whole. So.
And additionally, we have been doing these specifically tax projects in different regions as well. So doing it in Africa or doing it in Middle East is a very much different experience than doing it in Estonia, due to the different legislative rules and practices they apply there. Okay, we have one more question online about where did you guys study and did you graduate? So I heard previously that you both studied in Taltech, but have you graduated by now?
I graduated my bachelor's degree in informatics, yes, and I'm currently doing a master's in cybersecurity. So I'm still studying, but I did graduate the first part.
So. We briefly touched the subject before. I actually didn't get to answer. I joined T2 Taltech in 2013, and then as I said to you, I realized I wasn't really good in mathematics and physics, so I dropped out the first year, and kind of went on doing my own stuff, but the interest in development kind of started to come back slowly, and then over the years I just studied on my own, doing various like online courses, and then at one point, probably because I was Googling a lot of IT related and programming related topics, then on my Instagram feed there started to pop up this advertisement for like a sort of like a boot camp style Java development course that was held in Tallinn. It was over the weekends, so for 9 months on Saturdays and Sundays from 5 to 9, while everybody else was resting after the work week. I was going to, it was in a classroom, so on the spot. And then I sort of graduated this, I guess, but no, I haven't graduated university.
Mm-hmm. So there's another question about is there a preference of 100-time or full-time candidate, or candidate who can continue working full-time, or a candidate who can work part-time? No, there won't be a preference, but there will be a preference within a project. So the projects will come beforehand to state their requirements. Can they have a part-time junior developer in the team or not? Mostly they can, but there are some, and there might be a few exceptions to this. So we know that beforehand. Yeah.
With the previous topic of the actually how to study, develop, and where to develop in order to become the first to try attempt successful, etc. First of all, I really personally very much appreciate the Northern approach, and this kind of Northern Winter University I've never touched in many companies, so they just for some reason do not do that. Maybe do not invest that much. But my question is, for example, there is an initiative like Code IHVI, you definitely know that. Why Northern does not participate, although many Estonian companies do? So why do not you invest in that side, or you think Northern University is better, or something? Just like a kind of overview. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I like the provocative ones. I think Code.jõhvi is doing great on their own. I mean, they're currently, we did I'm also hosting a podcast, Algorithm, if you happen to know that. I highly recommend it, and we did an episode on Code.jõhvi just recently. They are going to be collaborating with organizations and companies, but it wouldn't be on the topic of the content that's being taught. And if we think of Winter University and Summer University and the content we teach here, it's a combination of getting acquainted with ways of working in Nortal, getting acquainted with the technologies we use, and then additionally getting the hands-on experience on real-life projects. So Code.jõhvi tries to do something similar in a way that they try to have the students solve actual problems rather than just some assignments and tests and so on. And they have a very practical approach to this. But to answer your question very directly, we haven't been involved with them mostly because they're doing just fine without us. They have a lot of support from others, and there definitely are opportunities for us to collaborate with them, and they have published those models to everybody. And Winter University is slightly different thing. It's more about getting practical experience in real life projects rather than learning the skill from scratch. There's also a question: is there a chance for total noobs to get on the boat? We do expect some level of competency in terms of Java development or front-end development to get on board. Because we understand that although our tutors and mentors are doing a great job, it would be a very different program if they would have to start teaching, I don't know, for loops and if statements. So we expect some base level, and this is why we have the test assignment. So once you go through those challenges and you pass the test assignment, then you can be confident yourself that you also have the required skill level to be on board. So I have one more question to you. How did you end up choosing either if you want to do the front end and you joined in as a full stack developer anyway, but you now are doing mostly back-end development. How did that happen?
I'm still doing full stack. I just feel more comfortable with backend, I guess. But it's just need-based, I guess. I joined as a full stack, and from there on, it just depends on what project you're in, what's needed in the project. I think a lot of juniors and mid-levels do a little bit of both. There are a few who get really excited about either front-end development or certain back-end developments, and they learn on their own, go more in depth into one or the other, and they share their experience. They show that they know something a lot about this, and then they become the kind of go-to person to ask about this or to handle a certain thing, and that's how they probably specialize. But it depends on your own preference and what's currently needed in the project.
Kaspar, how about you?
Well, by the title, I'm also a full stack developer. So
but you mostly do front end?
Mostly, yeah. I mean, in the beginning, when I joined the company, then I honestly thought that I was going to go for the back end, but then the opportunity arose. And well, as a full stack developer, you should really learn both anyway. So I started with the front end, and then over like 3-4 weeks, I really grew into it, and I realized that I think a lot of developers actually kind of prefer backend. At least I feel like it. I'm not quite sure if it's true. So just to differ somehow also and make my contribution matter more, than I felt like, all right, this is something that I might want to pursue myself. And also because I feel like I have at least some sort of an eye for design, then this is kind of a front end front-end development is a nice, like a bridge between the really hardcore programming and design. So
yeah, so I was asking this because we had another online question. Can you switch afterwards if you join in if you end up in a project where you are joining in as a front-end developer, you definitely can have the chance to later switch to a project where you can get back-end development experience. Or if you join in as a full stack developer, you can definitely specialize afterwards and go deeper into one or another if you find that you enjoy that more. This is very much a question of a preference, and oftentimes it's not only a choice between front end and back end even. Sometimes it's also a question about do you like to do more infrastructure stuff? Do you like to solve really difficult problems, or be in more of a stream-aligned team where you work during the sprints and solve development tasks and add features to the product? Or again, on the other side, solving the really difficult problems. I don't know, there's a performance issue, and you might be tackling it for several weeks, trying to dig in and understand what's the root cause of that issue. And that's a very different kind of problem solving and different kind of assignment. But it takes time and some experience with all of these before you can figure it out which one suits you best.
I think the like relocation of people within the company is quite high. It feels to me in Nortal at least. So you can come in as a developer and end up like completely somewhere else, if you wish to, and if you show that you can.
And in my experience in Nortal, like your own preference and that matter. Like if you feel like you want to switch, I know people who have come in as testers and decided that they want to switch to development. So it's not just changing whether you're doing front end or back end or both or something else. It's also like what role are you in the team. There's a lot of talks and discussions about like if everything you're doing today at work, is it fulfilling? Is it helping for you to improve yourself? Are you happy with what you're doing? Is there something you want to do more of, something you want to do less of? It's just about open communication and letting your team and your superiors know what it is you want to do. And in my experience, people are very forthcoming with those opportunities. So.
Just to because you mentioned relocate between different and you wanted a provocative question, but a kind of why do people leave Nortal? So do you have like a survey?
Yes, we take that really seriously to understand why do people leave Nortal, and in many cases it's about opportunities that the Nortal cannot provide, that they get an offer they cannot refuse, for example, or there's sometimes an illusion that the grass is greener on the other side of the fence, and obviously it's very difficult to explain that it's not until you've actually experienced that. So that's one of the reasons that when people see more greener grass on the other side, and then they feel they want to try it out. But just to add on what Krut just said, it's not even about working in different roles. It's also possible to work in different geographies. This is again an opportunity that eventually arises or becomes available, not in your junior position, obviously, but at some point. We have had the chance where people have moved from Estonia to Oman, for example, to work there on those projects with those teams. There are a few questions about the minimum required level of competencies to enter this. Either people know just the fundamentals or haven't been in this domain for a long enough time. And they're asking if it would make sense to study something beforehand, or does it even make sense to apply for a winter university? Studying something beforehand is always a good thing to do, but we don't, as you can hear, we don't share much what it is we are going to be asking on our test assignment. And to some extent it has a reason that we want to understand the learning capabilities of the candidates as well. If somebody is really not confident about their level of skills, it always is worth to try and apply. And if you get the test assignment and see that it really is too difficult for me, then at least you have had the experience of trying to solve it. And as you heard before, don't drop it on the first sight of it. Just dig a bit deeper and try to solve it at least. Through that, you get a true insight and experience that if it's too difficult or it just seemed too difficult initially.
I think the experience of taking something that's completely new to you and trying to figure it out, trying to find materials to learn about it, is very good preparation for what it's actually like to work as a developer. Because I mean, this field is changing every day. It's incredibly vast. You can have a senior developer who's been doing this practically their entire life. There's going to be 100 things that they have never seen before. So the importance of being able to take something that's foreign to you and learn on the job and adapt to it is very important, in addition to what you already know or are prepared for, because you're never going to be prepared for everything.
Yes, and some of the technologies I started with don't even exist anymore, so it's you could say that it was a useless time learning it, but at that time it made sense, it was relevant, and it was useful. Then there's a question if we can share the previous year's test assignments. No, we cannot. Although they're really great assignments, we like to keep them to ourselves. If you manage to get through this year's test assignment, then of course we can, and once you join Winter University, of course we can share the previous year's ones. And you can use them to study further. Okay, do we have any further questions from the audience here? So in that case, I would like to go through some important facts about Winter University. So the registration for Winter University will be open until 26th of December. And the test assignment will be sent out the very next day. So on the 27th of December, there will be a test assignment being sent out. If you don't receive it 6 a.m. in the morning, don't send us emails that you haven't received it. It will probably come during the day. It's just that nobody's awake at 6 to send it. And from that time you have 2 weeks to solve it, from the 27th of December then. Sorry? Yeah, it might be. Yes. All of those dates are very specified on the homepage as well. So if you have, if you happen to forget them from this session, then you feel free to go in there and check them up there. So once you get the test assignments, you have solved it within the 2 weeks, then there will be following interview rounds. Once you get through those as well and you get a go from us that you're part of Winter University, then there will be a training workout starting from 28th of February next year, not next week. So 28th of February 2022 will be the beginning of your journey, and it will be, start with the training sessions. And after that, in the beginning of March, everybody who were in will get to meet their teams and join in and start working on actual tasks. So in an actual project. So there will be an onboarding session in every project, but that's the time when you will be kind of separated. There's a question about kind of salary from day one. What does it mean? It means from the day one, the day when you start in the Winter University training sessions, that is your starting date in Nortal. So that will be the date where the salary starts counting. I'm really hoping I'm correct with that one, but this is how I understand it.
I think I think the point, like, is it that the Winter University or Summer University sounds like it's a temporary few-month program where you're learning. It's not. It's a job. You're applying for a junior position. Like the learning period is the 4 months of usual probationary period at a work. So from day one you're an employee and you're getting paid for it. So everyone who gets in is like, they're not going to tell you in a couple of months that you probably won't continue or something, or that there's more filtering going on after a few months.
Yes, so there's a question, how long does Winter University last? So it's as long as you want. You can join in and stay forever. Yes. Until you're good enough. So it's not that you can join in and do nothing. You have to you have to work for it as well. Okay. Do we have any questions from the audience or from there's one question there.
I wanted to ask, do you have some maximum amount of people who passed the test and who passed the conversation?
Yes, there is. I should be getting the number soon enough, hopefully, but I think it's around 15 this year. Not sure. Let's say around 15. I think it's precise enough. Yes, there's one more question there. In between, I'll answer one from the chat. Any age limit to the Winter Academy or Winter University? No. But if you're really, really young, it might be that we need your parents' consent to sign the contract.
I think there have been people who have
Yes.
joined in high school.
Yes.
Yes, my question is, theoretically, if all of us would pass the assignment with maximum grades, then what would happen then?
Then all of you would get to the interview part. And it would be a really difficult challenge for us to figure out what to do next. And probably it would be a really bad test assignment then, if that would happen. Okay. Yes.
Is everything talked in English? Like if you have a conversation with your mentor or someone else, etc. Is it only in English, or if they're both Estonians, would it?
That's really good question. We have several international teams, and mostly the meetings in those teams happen in English. Of course, if you have a mentor who's Estonian, then you're free to speak with him directly in Estonian. But if there are anyone at the meeting who doesn't speak Estonian or doesn't speak Estonian well enough, then those meetings will definitely take place in English. And in those teams, usually the chat is also conducted in English.
Essentially, in any given context, the language is whatever is most comfortable to all parties involved. So.
And then in many teams we have international teams part as well. So the team is not only the people you are working closely together. In some projects we have like 3 times teams of 5. So 15 people working together on this individual project. They're working in teams of 5. 2 of those teams may be in Estonia, 1 of those teams may be in Serbia, but they still have to be interacting with each other. So that dictates some of the language preferences. There's a question if this Winter University counts as internship or for university. Yes, you can get the points for that as practica in Taltech. And working hours will be flexible, so there's a chance to work part-time and with flexible working hours. The only requirement there is essentially is making an agreement with a team or understanding the team agreements. So if team agrees that they will do a morning stand-up session 9 a.m., then you are going to be part of that agreement. Usually these morning stand-up sessions are not 9 a.m. because we have understanding people and not everybody wakes up at 9 a.m. and that's why they're later. But besides that, I think everything is possible. All kinds of arrangements have been made. It's just really important to verbalize them and put them out there as soon as possible. So once you get to the interview round, it's really important to express your own restrictions and limitations and your own needs and requirements, so that we can consider them as soon as possible and plan for an appropriate team to join in as well.
One question more?
Yeah, we have the time.
Fantastic. But I don't know. But do they hear me? Because
Yes.
Yeah, fantastic. But as soon as we start to doing the assignment and so on, I fully understand that you do not disclose what's going on, etc., etc. For me, it's a second time I will try, and therefore a little bit of questions. So first, where you expect more people to apply than the last year, and therefore the assignment will be tougher, so to say, compared to the next year. What kind of the clean code requirement or wishes would be, and whether do you expect any documentation in the code? So, I mean, at least those three. Thank you.
All valid questions. I don't know if the number of applicants will be higher. I'm hoping so, but that wouldn't be your benefit. But in terms of clean code and documentation, it always makes sense to put out as good looking code as possible. We don't have any strict requirements on this area, but I think it will be a tiebreaker, and it has been a tiebreaker in some situations when people get similar scores, but there's a significant difference in the code quality from one candidate. And it doesn't always mean that the other candidate is not able to do it, but it sometimes reflects the attitude the candidate has towards the code they're putting out. And definitely, if you're going to read that code in a year's time or a few years' time, you're going to think that it looks awful, even though you put a lot of effort into the clean code principles and then documentation and so on. But just try to do your best with the test assignment, and don't go overboard. It doesn't make sense to have like long stories in the documentation or comments just for the sake of it. The code has to be understandable for itself. If you see that there's a place where you can add documentation, then feel free to do it, but you won't get any extra points from the lines of documentation you add. That's for sure. Yes. So any further questions from here or from the chat? There's one asking if they can work part-time while they study. Yes, that's definitely possible. We even it's in our interest for you guys to finish what you started in the university, so we try to support that as much as possible. And that includes, again, the part-time. It also includes if you're going to write final thesis, for example, there's an opportunity to find some topics from within Nortal for that, to find instructors for that, so that you would get maybe work-related final thesis topics. It might be a bit more interesting for you to write if that's related to your everyday work.
There's also opportunities for study leave, well, which is essentially everywhere because it's on a national level,
Yeah.
not company based, but as someone who's been studying the entire time, I've been working in Nortal as well, then generally you talk with your team, you figure out what the best thing is for everyone, and it's in nobody's interest that you overwork yourself and burn through, so
don't burn out.
Don't burn out. Yeah.
There's a question.
After we complete the test assignment, do we get the score? Do we get to know our score? And if so, do we get any further feedback on our code? Thank you.
I'd say yes and no. You would get the answer if you overcame the threshold, if you can pass to the next round, or if you dropped out this time and can try later next time. I think the specific number wouldn't be really beneficial. Anyways, we'll try to do some feedback, some more specific feedback. But as you might guess, there's a lot of test assignments, so a lot of solutions coming in. So these might not be really thorough. But you definitely, we will definitely collect some of the feedback, and it can be forwarded you per request. So that's possible.
I personally got some feedback. Yeah, thank you for that.
Good. So there's a question about if it's going to be more of a remote job or in the office, and I think it's a really good question. Today we are operating in a very hybrid model. So I work part-time in the office, part-time at my home office. Again, it comes down to the team agreements. If everybody is doing the morning stand-up meetings in the office, and one person is off-site or every day, it makes it less efficient. But I think many teams currently are working in this hybrid model where some of the members are working home office, some in the actual office. So how is it?
Some in Tartu, some in Tallinn.
Yes. So how is it for you guys?
Yeah, it's anyone who wants to can go to the office. Anyone who doesn't have to. We did have agreement on an office day, 1 day a week, where most of our weekly meetings were on. But that's also the kind of an on and off thing, depending on what the situation out there is. I mean, with COVID going around, nobody's going to force you to leave home or show up somewhere unless you're comfortable with it.
So I'm in the office most of the days, but I'm still kind of remote because my team is located in Tartu. But we have perhaps every 2 or 3 weeks we get together. So tomorrow actually I'll be taking the bus to Tartu to meet up and have a team lunch and some sort of a team event.
And I'd say that after almost 2 years of this craziness, the remote and online cooperation has got people figured out how to do it almost as effectively as when everyone's in the office. I mean, it doesn't take that much effort to write to somebody in Teams or assign a quick phone call or a video call and share your screen and talk about things. So it works either way.
Yeah. There's one more question online about automated tests for the test assignment. There might be some. It's for you to figure out. It's not far away anymore. So there might be, there might not be. And if there are none, don't feel it that you cannot write any. There's a few more questions from the audience here.
I want to ask about, again, about the possibilities and opportunities. If you told that if human is studying right now, for example, at Taltech, he is able to partly work in Nortal. But for example, if I'm a QA engineer and I am able to make test automation, and I'm working partly right now, do I have same opportunity to work partly in Nortal?
Okay, so let me reflect this back to you
yes.
to make sure I got it correctly. You're asking if it's possible to work part-time in Nortal and part-time somewhere else.
Yes.
on another role. Yes, it would be possible. Theoretically, it's possible. There might be some difficulties during the training workout or training sessions. That's where we expect full participation. But until that's agreeable with your other employee, then yes, I'd say it's possible.
Okay, thank you.
There's one more question from the audience, and I think that's the last one. So the microphone is coming. Yep.
Thank you. My question is the assignment going to be in JavaScript or Java?
It's going to be in Java. Yes. So thank you everybody for participating. Thank you to online viewers. If you have any further questions, I think there's an email on the homepage that you can send your questions to. We might be monitoring the comments on the YouTube for some time longer, so you can write the questions there as well. And from my side, I wish you a lot of patience and energy and luck in terms of solving the test assignment, passing the interview rounds, and hoping to see you soon in Nortal. Thank you.